Recording in progress. All right, here we go. So, tips on working with buyers in 2024. Let's go. So, here's the most important thing you got to know about working with buyers in 2024. It is vitally important. We're gonna start with the moneymaker right off the bat, the big one. So if anyone joins in late, too bad. We're going straight for the main point. Biggest thing on working with buyers in 2024, it is vitally important that they get really aggressive in the first quarter. Okay, this is huge. Not only do you need to know this, but this is the message you need to be talking to your buyers about. It is vitally important, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that you get more aggressive in the first quarter. Okay? And it's even more important if they're if they're selling a house and buying a replacement property, they have to be aggressive in the first quarter. Does anyone want to guess why it's vitally important for buyers to be more aggressive in the first quarter? Anyone want to take a shot at that? Why is Robert saying these crazy things?
Because the interest rates are going to drop.
There it is, Emma. Okay, so here's the thing. First off, anyone that says they can predict interest rates is a liar. Okay, so let's start there. Okay. And I say that from experience. I remember I was sitting in my office January 2010. Okay, I'll share a little story with you about predicting interest rates. And so you kind of understand why I say anyone that says they can predict interest rates is a liar. January 2010, I'm sitting in my office in Beverly Hills. And if for those of you that remember, the Fed had just poured in $700 billion into the economy to regroup the economy, the too big to fail world of the global economic collapse. Okay, so this put in $700 billion. January 2010, I was on every conference call possible with presidents of banks, the Federal Reserve, real estate gurus, financial gurus, econ gurus, all this stuff, right? Yeah, thank you, Nikki. I did. I'm just going to recap it. All this stuff. And everyone said, when the Fed just poured a bunch of money into the economy, they're going to raise interest rates. That's just the deal. So we've got to get buyers to move quickly. So January 2010, I'm in my office in Beverly Hills just hammering the phones. You got to buy now. You got to buy now. Contacting every buyer. You got to buy now. You got to buy now. Well, for those of you that were in real estate, the interest rates did not go down at the end of 2010 or did not go up. They went down. And they went down again in 2011 and 2012. And it wasn't until June of 2013 when interest rates finally went up. So I would call people and say, I told you interest rates were going to go up. I was just 2.5 years late. But the point is, everybody that is talking now is saying that interest rates are going to go down slightly in the second or third quarter. Okay. So that's the expectation. So if the interest rates go down in second or third quarter, as Emma just said, that's going to create more buyers. Now, in most of our markets right now, is it still pretty competitive to buy a house? In most of our markets, yeah. In most of our areas, prices are going up. And if you look at the stats, and I'm happy to show, I won't show the stats right now, but I'm happy to show you the stats of showing what I mean, that you can actually see prices going up. Prices are going up year over year, still fairly competitive. You're getting a couple offers on every property. Well, guess what? If interest rates go down, instead of one or two offers on the property, we might get 4, 5, or 6. Well, now I'm a buyer. And right now I can get a property for what competing against one or two offers. And then instead of 4, 5, and 6, I might not get the house now. Now I'm either not going to get the house, or B, if I do, I'm gonna have to really fight to win, which means I probably won't get the terms that are and maybe price that I could get today. So it's really, really important when you're working with buyers that they get aggressive in the first quarter. So why do I say that about sellers looking for a replacement property? Most people who are selling a property and need to buy a property, can they buy the property without selling their current house? Most people. Most people know, right? I see some of you shaking your heads. Most people, if they're selling a house and buying a replacement property, they need to sell the current house in order to buy the new house, which means when you're placing an offer for them to purchase, what type of offer are what is part of that offer?
Subject to replacement of property.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so that's that on the listing side. And then you're right. On the buyer side, I'm writing a contingent offer that says it's contingent upon me selling my other house. Now, if I'm selling the house and you write an offer that's contingent upon you selling your current house, am I generally excited about that offer?
No.
No, generally not. But right now, if I only have one or two, maybe three offers on the property and one of them's contingent, all right, if the terms match up and maybe the other offers aren't as great, I have a chance. Well, now again, let's assume interest rates go down and there's now four, five, or six offers on the property. And now you're contingent. Now I'm a seller going, I don't know. I mean, now I've got five other people bidding on it against your contingent offer. This all of a sudden is not that enticing, which is going to make it even more difficult for the seller because now what's probably going to have to happen is that they're going to have to sell their house, do a rent back, or move out. And then that way they can go purchase a home non-contingent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So all of this factors into why it's important for buyers to be aggressive. So here's what I would recommend everybody do. I would call every single one of your buyer leads, whether they're a renter looking to buy their first house, they're an investor, whether they're a seller's got to buy a replacement property. I'll call all of them and have that conversation. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, there's some really interesting stuff going on in the real estate market that could affect you as a buyer. Do you have a minute for me to go over that? Sure. What is it? Boom. And you tell them about it. Now, here's a great question that you can ask a buyer. Are you okay being in your current living situation a year from now? If a year from now you're in your same current living situation, would that be okay? And if they say, yeah, it's fine. All right, well, then there's no urgency there. You're really just kind of, up to them on what you can help them with. But if they say, no, Robert, I can't be here in a year, that's not going to work. Okay. If we don't get aggressive now, that's what you're risking. And everybody with me on this, on why
Yeah.
it's important for people to be aggressive. I mean, if you're working with buyers, the first quarter is really important for them. After that, I mean, we're pretty much always a listing focused company anyways. That's why most of our business is listings. But boy, after that first quarter, we're really shifting listings because it is going to be tough. Tough sledding with buyers after that. Okay. So got to have that conversation with them. That is numero uno.
Oh no.
All right. Second thing I wrote down here, working with buyers in 2024. Okay. You need to go in. This is a mindset thing. They are going to question everything. They're going to be uncomfortable with everything. They're going to second guess everything. Okay. So have that all. So go in with that mentality. That's what they're going to do. Now, here's the thing. Not only go in with that mentality that that's what they're going to do, but go in with this mentality as well. It's their right to do that. So I want you to think about this. When someone's looking to buy a house, are they reading stuff online?
Yes.
Yes. Are they listening to other voices?
Yes.
Yes. Does everything they read online and the other voices and your voice all line up to the same message?
I think so.
Really? They have someone else answer?
I froze there for a second, but I'm sure you all said no. No, your message is not going to be the same message that they read online, which is not going to be the same message of Uncle Leo. Yes, Seinfeld reference. What are you going to do? Okay. So, okay, that's just part of the gig. Because of that, every buyer's got some confusion. Okay, I'm reading this, I'm hearing this. They're gonna second guess everything. They're gonna question everything because that's all the stuff that's going on in their business. Now, here's the other part of it. Between what they read online and what their other voices, family members, compared to you, what is the one disadvantage you have compared to every other source that they're reading or hearing? What is the disadvantage that you have? The disadvantage you have is that you are getting paid. And because you are getting paid, there's always in a consumer's mind, not just real estate, just any sales business, in a consumer's mind, there's always a little bit in the back of their head that's going, well, they're getting paid on this. Of course, they want me to move forward. Okay. So you have to go in with that expectation that, hey, look, they're going to question everything. They're going to second guess everything because they're hearing things from all over the place. Here's the other aspect of it. When a buyer puts down their down payment, is it usually most of their savings account goes to the down payment? Yeah. Very few times does somebody put down $500,000 and also has an additional $5,000 left over. That usually doesn't happen. It's usually I'm putting down $200,000, which was the proceeds from my current. I'm only going to have $2,000 left over, right? If it's a first time buyer, they've been scraping pennies. Remember when you bought your first house, most of us, it took years, right? Scraping pennies, collecting change, dollars, all kinds of stuff to scrounge up $10,000, $15,000, only for you to then go to a bank with a wiring account number for them to say, hey, guess what? We're all that money it took you years to save is going to be gone in about 2 seconds. Now, for some of you that went through that, do you remember kind of the heart palpitation that you had when you found out that all that money was about to be emptied out of your account? Okay. So again, understanding that buyers are going to be concerned. Okay. I say this because one of the things that we have a problem with buyers is that it's like, well, we did the consultation, and now they're second guessing, we get frustrated. You got to go in with the mentality that that's going to happen. So you can't be upset. Now let's look this from a different perspective. They have the right to do that. However, since they have a right to do that, you also have a right to be somewhat confrontational on when they do second guess, when they do question things, to see if they really are motivated to do something.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me give you an example. You have a buyer that you get an offer accepted, inspection comes through, they get cold feet, they back out. Okay, at that point, you could choose if you want to work through or not, but you will have the right at that point to question them. Like, do you really want to buy this house? Do you really want to move forward? I don't want to go search again until I know that this is what you want to do. Or you do a consultation, they give you everything that they want in the house, and you go find the house, and then once they see it in person, they don't like it. You have that, they have a right to change their mind, but you also have that right to say, hey, look, before we go search for any more homes, now that you've seen some homes, what is it you like? What is it you don't like? Because I don't want to go showing more homes if it's not going to fit what you're looking for. So they have a right to change their mind, but you also have a right to be confrontational, make sure that they still want to do it, make sure it fits within your standards. Okay? But it's all about how you present it. Right? They're stressed out. So if you present it in an aggressive way, a stressful way, they're going to shut down. But if you present it in a, hey, a firm, but I want to help, but we got to figure this out type of thing, I don't want to waste my time, then it's different. But don't be upset when they change their mind once. Don't be upset when they're hearing other voices or reading something or questioning things. Go in with that mentality. Save yourself the time. Now, here's what I would say though. The next along this lines, but the next point I wrote down on buyers. Before you move forward with any buyer, you want to pre-qualify them, but you want to ask a couple questions that almost disqualify them. So here's what I mean. Has anyone here noticed or heard that escrows are falling out higher rates than in normal years? Have you heard or seen that? Okay. Right now it's about 25% across the board of escrows fall out. That's higher than it's been, at least. I mean, I'm going on this is year 20 for me. And I don't remember minus the crazy minus 2 times 2008 when the fallout rate was higher, and April of 2020 when COVID hit and everything fell out of escrow when the market shut down in March. Okay. Other than that, 25% is a lot. So in order to prevent fallout, you want to pre-qualify, but ask a couple disqualifying questions. So let me give you an example of a disqualifying question. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm glad that we went through all the stuff you want to buy. Let me ask you a question. What concerns do you have about purchasing a house right now? What questions do you have? What fears do you have? What are some things you're not really sure about? See, we don't ask that question because it's like, well, Robert, I don't want them to second guess it. I don't want them to have concerns. I'd rather know up front than after I opened up escrow. If they have a concern, are you going to go through the entire process without that concern being brought up? No. I'll just answer my own questions since no one else wants to play. No. So you might as well get it out of the way now. So I challenge some of you, okay? I challenge some of you on this, and don't get mad at me, don't get upset at me, but if you open up an escrow with a buyer and it falls out, before you get mad at the buyer, think to yourself, like, where did I miss this? Did I miss this issue somewhere? Okay. Well, it fell out of escrow because here's one that I don't understand. It fell out of escrow because they weren't comfortable with the payment. How did it get all the way to escrow with that being the case? Either A, someone that wasn't asking all the questions, or B, that's not the real issue. But you need to ask that question. Is there anything concerns you have? Is there any fears you have? Are there any questions you have? Let's get those all out of the way right off the bat. Before you go search for homes, write up offers, let's get their concerns out of the way. Let's address them. Because you might find out you don't have a real buyer. Okay? We want to get that out of the way sooner. So ask those kind of almost disqualifying questions. But again, is tonality. I know I've had you write this down probably 100 times, but I want you to write these numbers down again. 7, 38, 55. 7, 38, 55. Rules of effective communication. Rules of effective communication. What does 7 represent? Anyone know what 7 represents? Rules of effective communication. 7% is what? Anyone want to guess or no?
Skills.
What's that?
Skills.
7 is what we say.
Words. Rules of effective communication. Marco, you're right because skills are important in everything. So you're right. Okay. 7 effective communication. 7% are the words that we use. That's it. It's only 7%. 38 is tonality. 55% is what? Anybody want to take a guess? 7% of words, 38% tonality. What's 55?
Skill, knowledge.
Language.
Body language. Yeah, there you go. Good job. Body language. Effective communication is 7% words, 38% tonality, 55% body language. So all these things that we're talking about with buyers, these confrontational questions or confronting them, it's all about the tonality and the body language. So if I say to you, well, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I mean, what are your concerns about buying a house right now? Oh, that seems kind of frustrated. Or if I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, so, what are some of the concerns you have right now? What have you read? What have you heard? What have you seen? Right? It's the tonality you say it. It's also your body language more than the words.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's important because, again, buyers are more stressed out than sellers because sellers are going to get paid. Buyers are losing money. I mean, I understand they're gaining a house, but they're losing money. Sellers are gaining money. Buyers are more stressed. So when someone's more stressed, you got to be more careful with the tonality and body language and stuff like that. All right, good. Good. So we're addressing some of that stuff up front. All right, next point I wrote down here, working with buyers in 2024. You need to set a guideline on when does that lead expire. So the date you get a lead, I want you to also select the date that that lead expires. So there's a couple reasons for that, why that's important, especially with buyers. But when you set an expiration date, what are you creating for yourself? It starts with a U.
Starts with the U.
If I set an expiration date on a lead, what am I creating for myself? Urgency.
Urgency.
Yeah,
Urgency. Timeline, sure.
timeline.
I'm creating urgency. Because if I select an expiration date for a lead, then that means I've got to work the lead. I can't just be like, well, I'll just follow up with them and I'll call them tomorrow or, yeah, I'll follow up with them next week. No. I've got an expiration date. Okay. Now make sure your expiration date is like sometime soon. Robert, I followed your advice. I got a buyer lead and I set the expiration date. When is it? A year from now. No. No. It's not what I was saying. But you create urgency. Okay, so if I set that expiration date and I hold myself accountable to that expiration date, it's like, okay, I'm going to call them. I'm going to follow up on them. Let's go. Come on. Are you ready to buy? I'm ready to show. Are you ready to buy? Okay, it's that urgency. If you have urgency in yourself, you can create urgency in a client. If you have no urgency in yourself, your client will have no urgency. This all goes back to you, the person you are is the people you attract. Okay, if you have no urgency, your leads will have no urgency. If you are a flake, your leads will be flakes. Like you won't, that's just the way it goes. You have to create urgency within yourself to be able to create urgency with a client. So you want to set that expiration date. Now, the second reason it's really important for you to set an expiration date with a buyer lead is who here has been in real estate for 5 years or more? Okay, so either one of you or so we just have a bunch of newbies or no one's paying attention except for Marco. Good. So then I'll just assume you all are new then. Okay. And Marco will just back me up on it. It's taking more contacts to get a lead now than it took 4 years ago, 5 years ago, to more contacts to get a lead. And it's taking more leads to convert to an appointment. And it's taking more appointments to convert to a closing than in years past. So because of that situation, I can't hang on to leads. I either need to move the lead forward or move it out. Because if I keep the lead just hanging in there, it gives me false hope that I might actually close a deal, even though I won't. Okay. And so it creates less urgency for me to find more deals, and it takes up more time, effort, and energy. I can't do that. I need more contacts. And because I need more leads to get an appointment, to get a closing. So if I'm going to hit my goal in 2024, I have to be really strong in moving leads forward or moving them out, especially buyer leads. Okay. And I say that because seller leads are pretty simple, right? They're either going to sell or they're not. Buyer leads seem to be the ones that linger more than seller leads. So you need to have that expiration date and then be aggressive, create that urgency. And if they don't meet the demands on that expiration date, then you got to move on from them. Okay. Or just put them on your email list. They get emails from you, but they're no longer on your lead board. Okay.
So
Go ahead.
so when you set the timeline for expiration, we're looking at 10 days,
Everybody's
15 days?
different.
Right?
Now, everybody's different. So you got to set what's right for you. Now, my definition was always this: they have 1 week to move forward one step. So here's what I mean. I get a buyer lead today. They say, yeah, I'm interested in buying a house. Give me a call, tomorrow. Let's set up a time for next week. I say, okay, great. So I put that lead down and it's Thursday. So Thursday of next week, I'm gonna look at this lead and I'm gonna say, where are we at? Did we move forward one step? Now, one step could be they got pre-approved. We set an appointment for a buyer consultation, right? Something like that. We haven't done the buyer consultation, but we at least set an appointment for it. We've moved forward a step. To me, I would say, okay, great. I'm going to keep that lead until it stops moving forward one step a week. But if I have a lead, if I got that lead today and I said, okay, great, let's set up a buyer's consultation. I'm gonna now here's the thing. I'm gonna be very aggressive. I'm gonna touch base with them 4 or 5 times in the next 7 days. I might call them tomorrow. Maybe I'll do something over the weekend, maybe not. But I'm gonna call them on Monday. I'm gonna call them Tuesday. I'm gonna text them Wednesday. Thursday comes around. I say, all right, where's this lead at? Same exact spot it was a week ago. I'm moving them out. That's me. Okay. 1 week, move forward one step. Now, some people might be more aggressive or less aggressive. You got to figure out what it is for you. Now, I don't think anything should be lasting longer than 2 weeks. I think if you have a lead, now here's the thing: if they tell you specifically, we're looking to buy or sell in 30 days, okay, right? That's different. But if they don't give you a specific time frame, that yeah, no, we're looking to buy. Okay, great. 2 weeks. If I can't get you to move forward one step in 2 weeks, then
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's too if you're gonna accomplish your goals in 2024, you got to make more contacts, you got to create more urgency, and the buyer leads, you got to move them forward and move them out. Okay, but everyone's got to create their own rules for that that makes you comfortable. But set that expiration date so you can create that urgency for yourself and everything else. Okay. Now, next thing I wrote down here on buyers 2024. If at all possible, don't set them up on an automatic email campaign for properties. Meaning they give you what they want and you say, great, an MLS search. And so you can see all the listings, all the new listings will automatically come out to you. I wouldn't do that. You do that if you want. Now, here's why I wouldn't do that. As closings go down in real estate, that means income goes down. When income goes down, that means the level of service goes down. Now, let's put that into a listing. There are less listings with professional photos. There are less listings with properties that are staged, that are cleaned up, that are nice. Okay, there's less of those because those cost more money. So it's the trickle down effect of closings and people not willing to spend the extra money to do things to make the listings look really nice. Happens more often now than it did in the last few years. So what that means is that you have more people taking photos themselves with their phones. Okay, now I get it. These phones are really neat, and you got portrait mode and all these other really cool gadgets. And I'm like not a very tech savvy person, but it's got some cool things. However, have you seen any listings recently where you could see the reflection of the person taking the photo as one of the pictures in the listing? Have you seen any of those? And if you've done any sort of previewing, looking at properties and stuff like that, you have. So, because the level of service is down, the professional photos are down, the staging is down, the cleaning of property is down, you're now sending that to a client. Now, do most people, when you send them a property, take time out of their day to go sit down at a desk and open up their laptop and turn off their phone
This is Armin.
so they can limit the distractions so they can be fully
Veronica.
focused on the email that they got from you of properties that are for sale? Do you think that's what most people do? No. Where do they look? They look here. They look on this little tiny device at a 3,500 square foot house on this little tiny device. And do most people, when they're reading emails, are they multitasking? Yes, they're reading the email while they're watching TV. They're reading their emails while their director of real estate is training a real estate class. Oh, I'm sorry.
Not me.
That's what they're doing. So you're sending them an email on a property that they're looking at on this little tiny phone while they're multitasking with non-professional photos, non-staged, and then you follow up and say, "What'd you think of the property?" "Ah, it was okay." What'd you expect them to say? So we've got to get past that and be more salesperson-ish to where we go find the property, we preview the property, we look at the property, we know the streets, we know that to be able to call the buyer and say, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I found a property that fits what you're looking for. I'd like to take you to go see it tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Are you available?" Yeah. But send it to me first. I don't want to do that. Can I tell you why? Why? Because I've seen the property online, I've seen the property in person. And I got to tell you, online is not done up very nicely. And I think it's going to set you in a bad taste in your mouth. But I've seen it in person, and I'm telling you, when you see it in person, it's what you're going to want. So just blind faith, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, that I know what I'm doing. Humor me, and let's go see this property and see it for the first time live and not online. Okay.
So the response is, well, I already saw the property of the pictures and I don't like the property.
You know what? And you know what, Emma? I totally get that. Then that's why I wish I would have got this property to you sooner. I do. That's my fault. My fault for not previewing this property sooner. So I take ownership of that. But I'm telling you, I went and saw the property, and I agree with you. The pictures, I don't know who they hired. That's a different story. Okay. They weren't done it right. But when you see it in person, you said you wanted the 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, you wanted the big backyard, you wanted the kitchen ready to go. I'm telling you, this is the one for you. Okay? You're gonna like it. Okay. And if you don't like it, you can fire me if you want to, but you're going to like this one. Okay. So wait, are you willing to just go with me tomorrow at 2 o'clock to see this house? So I'm going to take ownership of it. Like, my bad. Should have got this to you sooner. Okay. But when you set up those automatic emails and then just follow up with them and then say, they don't like, there's nothing out there. I had a conversation with an agent about this today. Well, I have this buyer, but there's nothing out there for them. Nothing. Not one listing that fits what they're looking for. Not one. Well, there's one. I sent it to them, but I'm just waiting on it. It's like there is one. Because if there's not one, then they're not motivated unless you're in a really unique area. Like, oh, I'm looking for a winery that's 18 acres in Temecula. Okay, that's kind of specific.
Yeah.
Okay, like, all right, I get it. Like, that's different. Okay. You're in Mount Washington in Los Angeles or something like that where there's like 2 sales a year. I get it. Okay. But everybody else, like, not one. I email the properties that that's not what they're looking for. Crap. They're either not motivated or you got to get them out. You got to get them off the couch. Okay. So I would try to avoid that if at all possible. Okay. We have to be more aggressive. We all work with buyers. We have to be more aggressive. This all goes back to the urgency aspect of things. You need more contacts to get more leads and more leads to get an appointment. And I can't, and so I've got to move quickly. Okay. I've got to move quickly. So I'm going to go preview the property and I'm going to tell them if this is the property that's right for them or the property that's not. Okay. But I've got to be more the initiator. I've got to be more aggressive with some of this stuff when it comes to the buyer leads and not just rely on the MLS. All right. Next thing I wrote down here, working with buyers. The inventory problem is going to continue to be a problem. So get over it. Okay. Next point. But Robert, I got buyers, but there's no inventory. Okay, well, that's not going to change. So either figure out a way to get them into a house or move on from them. Don't let the inventory shortage be the reason you're hanging on to leads or that you're not getting buyers into escrow. It's not going to change. Okay, they're not going. There's not like all the of sellers. That's not going to happen. There's not going to be a flood of foreclosures. That's not going to happen. Unless you live in certain areas, there's not going to be a flood of new builds. So the inventory thing's not going to change. So you have to educate your buyers that, well, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen on the marketplace. This is what it is. There's not going to be a difference. Okay, but you also have to accept that as well. So don't let the inventory be the reason that you're hanging on to this lead. No, they're a motivated lead. I can't find them anything. No, stop it. Okay. There's something. Don't let the inventory be the thing. Because here's the other thing too. Well, they just don't like the homes that are in their price range. Okay, so the next home that comes on the market in their price range is probably going to be very similar to the current homes on the market in their price range. So if they don't like the current homes, they're not going to like the new home that comes on the market in that price range. It's not like a $5,000 house in Marietta right now they don't like, but tomorrow the $500,000 house is like, whoa, that one's different. Whoa, that one's like a spaceship. Like that's not going to happen. It's going to look the exact same way of the current ones. So don't let the inventory be the reason that they're not in escrow, that you're not writing up offers, that you're not showing properties. It's not going to change. What it is what it is. Okay. $500,000 in this area, this is what it gets you. Tomorrow, don't wait for new listings. Don't wait for new inventory. The new inventory is going to look the same as this one. Actually, it's probably going to look worse. Why is it probably going to look worse? So if you don't like the $500,000 house, you're going to be really pissed off next month when the 490 house is now the $500,000 house. Now you're really going to be upset. Don't let the inventory thing get in your way. That's not going to change. Okay. All right. Good stuff. All right. Last couple things here. I wrote down working with buyers in 2024. This is just this is coach talk coming out on this point here. But you have to set your own parameters. But I would set some standards on the buyers that you're going to commit to working with in 2024. And some of the standards that I would input is radius of where I'm willing to drive. Price point I'm willing to show. Okay. I would consider setting some standards for yourself when it comes to buyers in those categories. Because if you have a buyer that's super qualified, super motivated, ready to go, is there a guarantee that they're going to get their offer accepted? No. If I have a seller that's super qualified and super motivated, is it pretty much guaranteed I'm going to get that listing sold? Yes. So, because of that, I can expand my search area with sellers because if it's 25 miles away and they're super qualified, super motivated, I'll drive because I know it's going to sell. But I could get a super qualified, super motivated buyer, write up an offer, not get their offer accepted. So I need to condense my buyer radius versus my seller radius. I bring this up because some people are like, well, I work this area, these areas. Okay, great. Shorten the seller radius, that's fine, but shorten the buyer radius. So you're not driving so far to show a buyer that may not even get their offer accepted. Likely won't, because if there's 3 offers, they have a 33% chance. And 3 offers is pretty reasonable nowadays. So you have it's not a great chance of getting your offer accepted. Don't drive 25 miles for that. Shorten the radius that you're working on the buyers. Okay. Now, I don't pay your bills. So I understand for some of you are like, Robert, I got to take a deal wherever I can get it. Okay. Okay. But I'm just saying, consider shortening your radius with buyers for that simple idea. Arissa, go ahead.
This is only a little bit relevant, but I remember as a kid when my parents were buying houses, the agent would drive us around in their car. Is that still a thing? Like, do people do that?
It is. It's not as much,
Oh, okay.
but it is still a thing. People still do it, but not as much because one, technology, people just get properties and they'll just meet you there. And two, uh, there's just some people are just, well, it's funny. People are uncomfortable getting in people's car unless you drive Uber for some reason.
Mhm.
So I will get in a stranger's car who's picking me up from a bar at 2 a.m. when I have slower motor skills, but I won't get in the car of a real estate agent dressed professionally that's going to go show me a house. People are funny.
Mm.
So part of it is the little like discomfort of being in the same car with someone that you don't know. Now, if it's a friend of yours, it's different.
Mhm.
But yeah, some people still do it, but not as often.
Isn't
Okay.
it part of it also, you have to have some kind of insurance also, there's a kind of liability as well.
Yeah, you have to have insurance to do
Yeah.
that. But if you're an agent with Century 21 Masters, you have that. Yeah, that was part of your ICA that you signed.
Oh, great.
That's part of the deal. But yes, you do have to have that. Uh, I'm still a fan of it. We still coach on that and train on that and getting people in the car. One, because it keeps them from going to the house without you. And two, you can ask a lot of really good questions while you're driving them around and
Mm.
show them the neighborhood. So I always, man, but that's me. So, yep, but shorten the radius. Okay, so you're not driving all over the place trying to do that. And then going on the price point thing. Now, again, I'm not paying anybody's bills. So you do what you want. And I understand that some of you do land, and some of the land deals are just, they're $10,000. What are you gonna do? But consider looking at the price points with certain buyers. All right, I don't want to show homes that are under $200,000, 300, 400, 500. Everybody's got a different number. Um, we have a couple agents that are more coastal that have set some standards of 500. So you got to consider doing that because again, it's tough to get a buyer's offer accepted, and you want to be very mindful of your time. All right, good stuff. Okay, questions on anything I've gone over so far?
Just one thing.
Go ahead.
So, I've been calling the contacts and updating the follow-up boss. And some have said that they're ready to buy in June. And at that point, I have set them up to receive property profiles on a monthly basis or market updates on a monthly basis. I think that should be okay, correct?
Well, why is it taking them a month to figure out if they want to buy a house?
Well, 6 months. Wow,
Oh, they're 6 months away.
they're 6 months away.
Oh, yeah. People that are far, yeah, no, you got it. If they're not ready to do something right now, yeah, get them on your email list, send them property profiles, send them market updates, call them every couple months. Yeah, treat them like a database. Absolutely. You're 100% right. Yep, 100% right. Yeah, if they're not ready to do anything, this is where like I differ from some other real estate coaches, mainly Mike. Mike says, to throw leads away. I don't throw anything away because emails are free. So if someone's not ready to do something, I always minimum keep them on my email list because you just never know. And if it's a decent lead, I'll call them. But here's the thing. If someone tells me they're not ready to buy for 6 months, I might call them in 2 months, but I'm not going to call them to ask them if they're ready to buy yet. I'm going to treat them like a database and ask them who they know that might be looking to buy or sell. So if somebody says, I'm not looking to buy for 6 months, Rob, okay, cool. Hey, do you mind if I just keep you updated of what's going on in the market just so you're in the know? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. I will call them in 2 months. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Robert Hertel, Century 21. How you doing? Good. Hey, I know you're not ready to buy for another 4 months, but just want to give you an update. There were 42 homes that closed escrow in Chino last month, and I'm just curious, who do you know that might be looking to buy or sell that I can help right now? Well, I don't know anyone right now. Okay, cool. Well, hey, look, if you know anyone, let me know. Other than that, looking forward to helping you in 4 months. So I wouldn't call them in 2 months and ask them, hey, has anything changed? I would treat them like a database, ask them if they're looking to buy or sell. So that way I'm just more building that relationship with them and maybe getting some other business.
What about an expired listing? If they said it expired and then they said, so you tell us, well, are you ready to sell maybe in the next couple of months? Well, maybe. I mean, you should be on top of those like on a weekly basis, not on a monthly basis.
Well, depends on, I'd have to continue the conversation. So if an expired says, hey, are you looking to buy? Are you still looking to sell and buy a house? Yeah, but in the next couple months. Okay, well, what has to happen for you to make that decision? Do you need to see is there something that has to happen in the market? Is there something that has to happen with prices or something that has to happen with interest rates? Like, what's going to be the deciding factor for you to do that? Like, I want to try to get some information out of them to decide on how much time I want to, or when I want to follow up on them.
Okay, great.
Because especially with an expired, because they had already thought about it. They had put it on the market once. So they could just have an emotional trigger to do it again. Or they could legitimately wait a couple months. So I got to figure out a little bit more. But switching that over to the buyer conversation, what you could also do with an expired is forget about the listing and say, hey, you know what? Forget about selling your house. What were you going to do? Well, we were going to buy a house in Irvine. Oh, okay, tell me about that. And then you could just switch the focus on helping them buy a house in Irvine to get them excited about that. And then that might get them more excited about listing again.
Thanks, Robert.
You're welcome. Okay, last note. Last thing I had here. I know I'm over, but last thing I had. I saved this for last because I was hoping people would leave. Because this is a note that I'm not generally excited about talking about because I don't really ever promote this ever. I would consider if I thought I had a motivated buyer, I would consider showing them a property before they got pre-approved. I would consider that. Now, I've never agreed to that idea. I won't show a property unless someone's pre-approved. However, because of all of going back to one of the very first things we said, because of all the information they're hearing, they're reading, they're seeing, it's really tough sometimes to overcome all of that, especially again, being that I'm getting paid. So they want to, I feel like they want to buy a house, but they're slow on getting pre-approved. I may consider saying, hey, let's go. How about we go see a property? So that way you can see what's out there and maybe that'll get you excited about buying a house right now. What do you think? And then go show them a property. I wouldn't take them out showings. I would take them go see a property to just get them maybe excited. And if they got excited about it, then I could use that as leverage. Say, good. Well, I can't write up an offer unless you get pre-approved. So why don't we go get pre-approved now? So I would consider doing that if I thought I had someone that was really looking to do something. Okay. Again, not something that I would promote actively, but maybe in certain cases you might want to do something like that if they're just seem to be a little hesitant. Now, what I would ideally do in that scenario is make sure I would only do that with a client that's in my market area because then I could treat it as a preview. Because I have to go preview property anyways. So I could say, hey, look, I'm going to go preview this property tomorrow. That actually kind of fits what you're looking for. You want to go with me? So even if they turn out to be duds, I have to go preview property anyways. So there's a benefit. Now, if they're in an area that's kind of out of my marketplace, then it's kind of tough because I'm not really, the previewing doesn't really help me there. But I don't know. I would at least consider it in today's world. All right. Other questions on anything we went over? I've got 6 minutes
Robert,
before my next call. Yes.
the first point that you mentioned to us was that we need to be aggressive in the first quarter of 2024. And
Yep.
you mentioned that one of the reasons is that the interest rate, they're gonna go down, but probably I missed some information. How can I sustain or how can I tell that to the client?
So
Trust.
so here's how I would word it. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I've got some information about the real estate market that could affect you in buying a property. Do you have a minute? And they say, yeah, what's going on? Well, I've been watching and reading a lot of economists, a lot of real estate people, a lot of federal people. The general consensus is that people think interest rates are going to go slightly down in the second or third quarter. Notice how I say slightly because no one's expecting a major drop. And if I say big drop, then it just opens up more questions. A slight drop in the second or third quarter. If that happens, as I'm sure you can imagine, that's going to increase the number of buyers entering the real estate market.
Mhm.
And if we have more buyers in the market, what is that probably going to mean for homes that are for sale? So I'd ask a question.
Mhm.
Oh, then they might say prices might go up. It's going to be more competitive. Exactly. So right now, you're only competing against a couple offers, which gives you a great chance to purchase a property. Second or third quarter, it's going to be a lot tougher for you to even get the property. And if you do, because they'll have multiple offers, you might not get the terms that you could get today. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. So based on that, should we be a little bit more aggressive in searching for a home right now?
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Robert.
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I will figure it out. Yeah.
Robert, you didn't mention anything about that Dream for All program. That's gonna bring some business in as well.
I don't
Additional,
talk about that stuff because I don't know when the money's gonna run out.
right? Right
By
away.
because because that's what happened last year or whenever. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. By the time we promoted it, it was out of money.
It was gone, yeah.
It was gone.
Yeah.
So I don't even give people the hope. Talk about down payment assistance, Dream Pro. I don't talk about any of that stuff because I have no idea when the money's going to be gone. And then it's like, I don't know, you're just kind of creating false hope. So if somebody brings it up, well, what about that program? Be like, you know what? I know it's around, but I know the money goes quick. So if you want it,
Oh, yeah,
you should have probably bought a house yesterday. I don't know. Yeah, those programs, the money just goes away so fast. I
yeah,
try not to even get involved with it.
right.
I mean, it was just crazy last year. All right, good stuff. All right, everybody. That's all I got. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any more questions when it comes to buyers,